The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It is yet another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, as usual, I am here in the studio with our in-house analyst, Silas Ezebu.
Welcome.
And Chibuzo Okaibe.
Thank you.
I'm your regular host. George Agba is my name. And of course, The Big Issue, as you know, is a program that helps you make sense of the big issues trending in the polity of Nigeria and even beyond. And of course, it's a program that goes behind the news to dissect the big issue, requiring the attention of government, policymakers, and the citizen. Well, for the big issue of the day, it is the revelation by former interim chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Bisi Akande, and the 2023 polls. As controversy continues to trail Chief Bisi Akande's thought-provoking book, My Participation, we are going to break down on why the book has become a subject of discussion in the country. Akande made so many revelations there. And part of what he said involved the unresolved murder of a serving Attorney General of the Federation, Bola Ige, and the vexed issue of the Muslim presidential ticket in APC before the 2015 general election. And of course, most Nigerians feel that the thoughts, the narrative in the book is actually popping up certain issues. And of course, they are trying to want Nigeria to look at the desirability otherwise of these issues ahead of the 2023 presidential election. And of course, one of the issues that can be raised has to do with this issue of how Osibanjo became the running mate to Buhari in 2015. And of course, the narrative we are getting is conflicting, Chibuzo. First of all, in Akande's book, Akande made it look as if it was Tinubu who single-handedly recommended Osibanjo, his SY Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of the Federation
Of the states.
of the states of Lagos State, while Tinubu was Lagos State governor. You see, Akande got a counter immediately. Most people in the APC and some of the president's men, and they have come out to counter what Akande was trying to claim. And the idea was that Tinubu was averse to Tinubu's candidacy as running mate to President Osibanjo's candidacy as running mate to Buhari. But what we are wondering is why are Nigerians taking Akande book so serious?
Wow. It is his account. It is his autobiography. He's entitled to his story and he's entitled to what he believes or he conceives or what he lived through. This is an autobiography. So, to that extent, I don't think it would be proper to deny him that right, if you will. However, the same right he has is what those who have a different narrative have as to what actually transpired. The only challenge now is few people have put a face, to the counter narrative as to what he's putting out, and that's where the whole issue becomes quite thorny, quite dicey and intriguing. Looking at the book, of course, it's clear the whole idea that it's the timing for the publication and everything points to the fact that it's purely a political game plan. It's part of the political game plan, yes, for 2023. And when we now begin to dissect the issues raised in the book with regards to, I think so far the critical ones have been how Ushibajo emerged as running mate, the intrigues as to how he emerged as running mate, the question around how the former Attorney General was killed, and the role some other Yoruba leaders have played so far in political engagements. That's Papa Ayo Adebanjo, Falaye, and all those guys. I know those elder statesmen. The way he came at them and tried to, so it shows you that it's a book that was perhaps intended to be controversial, but aimed at delivering a narrative. And I think that narrative, because at the end of it all, is to portray some people in a certain light and others in a different light. And we got to see that clearly when the issue of Osibajo came up, how he emerged, how he tried to package Tinubu as the final guy who had to call the shots on how Osibajo emerged and all of that. But from the counter narratives that we hear now, it's quite obvious that, or it will seem that the way Tinubu was portrayed in the book was not the way it is seen.
It's meant to be.
There's a counter narrative,
yes, from different
at that level. But like I said earlier, one way to concretize whatever counter narrative that there is now would be for the other key actors to open up and speak up, on what actually transpired. If none of that happens, no matter what kind of counter narrative is out there, it will always be taken as speculative and not as authoritative as somebody who has put his name to a story. So, calling out names, one would expect that the likes of former governor of Osun State would speak up, Aregbesola, former governor of Ogun State will
Bikinle
Amosu will speak up, Senator Bikinle Amosu will speak up. But Oshiomhole too perhaps would have to put a name.
Because I think when
was
Oshiomhole was popped up here, that he was supposed
yes.
he was even being dangled as a possible running mate to Buhari.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tinubu might also have to speak up too. Shibajo too at some level would have to come up so that because these are the key actors, the key characters in all of the intrigues surrounding how Oshibajo emerged and the implication that has going into 2023. Because the implication of that is the counter narrative tends to portray Tinubu as not being the kind of person he has always projected himself to be. So until we have these counter narratives concretized by people actually coming out to own up to those narratives, the Akande story might continue to have the edge somewhat because he has said this is my account. And he has put his face and his credibility to it. So until these other guys do the same, the balance will most likely go, tilt in the direction of Akande.
Yes, because it was through Akande's book that we even knew that at some point, Tinubu had to even fall out with Buhari.
Exactly.
Because Buhari was adverse to the Muslim ticket.
Buhari too might have to come out to speak. Because I do agree. In the build up to 2015, yes, certain things were critical. I remember Obasanjo, because they came to him, BBC at the time, lobbied for his support. Obasanjo clearly mentioned the no Muslim ticket. Yes, he's on record to have said that. Saraki too is said to have been one of those who kicked against the Muslim. So the concept of a Muslim ticket has always been there.
Yeah.
But the actors around the intrigues will still have to come up and speak up on this issue.
Well, because from the situation, you see that gathering last week in Lagos, one would have thought was just a mere book launch. But it was a political gathering that was loaded with some kind of underpinnings leading to political fireworks ahead of 2023 election. And you see, Buhari himself went there. And when Buhari got there, he actually reflected on the political earthquake that swept across the southwest. And he recorded 5 AD governors, Alliance for Democracy governors, were sacked from office through what is described as President Olusegun Obasanjo's diabolical political double cross. Buhari was focusing on Obasanjo, although one wouldn't have actually known the idea of the president choosing to be present, although he went for other official engagement, like the commissioning of this Navy something and the rest.
Yes,
But
people
people say somebody would have represented him.
let us not forget. Let me just chip in very briefly. Is it not intriguing that when Tinubu held his birthday celebration in Abuja here the last birthday celebration here, President
was not there. That is the
however, he chose to.
You have just corroborated what I'm just actually saying, Chibuzo.
Exactly.
And of course, you see, that is why most Nigerians are actually looking at that book as just beyond mere writing of autobiography. It is a kind of manifesto and political projections ahead of 2023. And of course, you could imagine, you see, many believe that that book will impact on how the next presidential candidate of the APC might emerge. And that is what it points to. Tell us, what do you think?
Yeah, the politicians are politicians, Nigerian politicians. They are endlessly scheming for power. What they do with power when they get it is another kettle of fish. The state of Nigeria will tell you what it is. But like you said, to not just run book launch, where there was actually a political gathering, and there was that's 20. It appears that that's 2023.
Trappings surrounding
so whatever it was done there was to prepare the ground for what will happen, to what's the ground for some candidates, preferred candidates, to be like watched
and possibly to test the waters.
Yes,
with the narrative they are now throwing.
Present the follow again, and then because already the issue of Muslim ticket has already then reared its head again. And I had to put that one at the podcast space and see how people are going to take it. Because there's a report in the newspaper, I don't know which one now, the newspaper, that's 1 or 2 weeks, how one of the subjects of this discussion of this book, Tinubu, had promised the North that they gave him a ticket, they should not mind that will give them a Muslim running mate. Himself being a Muslim, that they should allow him that he can go to Yoruba land and convince his people why they should back him. And that of course those your position will come from the south and southeast, and those ones to him no matter much in the calculation. Once he has got the north, the Muslim north and the southwest with him, others do not really count so much because the way the paper presented it. He said that was the only paper that had that, the kind of story. So whether it's true or not, the fact that they're also bringing up this narrative now seems to dovetail to that idea that they're trying to see, test it and see whether it will fly. Okay, but whatever is that book has a beginning of 2023, that is for sure. And of course, whenever you mention those who are likely to emerge in 2023, you mention Tinubu, whose his own interest is an open secret. Okay, people also mention Osinbajo himself in the narrative among those who could emerge from APC, and other people who are also going around and making their own potentials and so on. So, and it's almost like Tinubu and Osimhen are mutually exclusive in the sense that if Tinubu is there, people feel like if Tinubu is there, Osimhen cannot be there, and vice versa. But from the narrative and the counter narrative, he seems to suggest the narrative that Tinubu, pushed him forward since he can no longer go as opposed to the Muslim, was a Muslim, was still a Muslim. And the counter narrative has come to show that that actually he didn't want it. But when the groundswell of position to his own going ahead to the vice president was overbearing, overwhelming, he now had to agree. The other people are telling him that. And because, according to that counter narrative, because the vice president was one who said a Muslim meal ticket will not fly. And I feel that this man cannot benefit from that counter narrative. Well, like Joe said, those who have not put their name against it, they can know that because the Tinubu is almost the single non-governmental person that has the greatest power in APC. Those people who also feel they can play a role in APC, the political forward, will be unlikely to put their name forward now because they don't want the backlash in case the ascendance. You understand? So that's trying to politically wise and crafty as well to survive in the more quarter of politics. So, but like you said, 2023 is a full play, and we're going to see how it's going to turn out.
Well, let's just quickly take a short break. But before we do that, we will urge our viewers to actually contribute in shaping the conversation on the big issue by your way of comments. And of course, you've actually done so before, and it has helped to a larger extent to shape the conversation on the big issue. As we come back, we expect that your comments will be trickling in. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is Akande's revelation and the 2023 general election. Well, let's still look at this issue of Muslim ticket. You know that paid out you in 2014 ahead of the 2015 general election.
Yes.
And of course, you got to know that was even the reason why Buhari and Tinubu fell out. And Tinubu had to concede at the dying moment when he discovered that the decision taken had been sealed, that the retired general then was not ready to shift ground. That's why he gave up. And of course, if this book had not come out, we wouldn't have known that this kind of power play and tricks were actually behind the scene. Now, the question I would have asked is, this Muslim ticket, we know it had always been there, but it played out prominently in 2015. And now it's playing out again. But is the country right? A country that is always divided within religious, ethnic lines. Is the country right for this Muslim ticket? Let's just look at it. Although in Kaduna, I think in Kaduna, we have Merufai, the governor, who is a Muslim. And the deputy governor, the lady, is a Muslim. Will Nigeria take this in the country of diverse?
For today, even the whole concept of because this
Korean attacks are going on everywhere.
It's going on. So, of course, you can be sure that such things are going to come up. But much more in a time where we have an administration that has been overtly accused of projecting, one ethnic identity beyond others and shutting out other ethnic groups from, engaging in engaging in the system. I find it difficult to see how one can argue for this Muslim thing to happen at this time, because the seeds of division has appears to have taken more root than we even had in 2015. So it will be a very tough argument to make, to say, okay, the Muslim ticket can fly, because how do you convince the Christian community in the north? How do you convince the Christian community down south? So this it's a very, very dicey situation, and it's unfortunate because it, from the look of things, these issues might still define how 2023 elections should go, and that is where it is much more painful. We might not necessarily have so much about what the person is bringing to the table on health, on education, on economy, on all these other things.
Manifesto that project policies and agendas that will benefit Nigeria.
Exactly.
They are not on the
We
cards.
might not have that.
It's always how the power should be shared
back
to favor
to these divisive issues, unfortunately. And all the political parties will want to find a way of mending and presenting their candidate, their tickets, their party flag bearers in such a light that will reflect, it's not bad in itself, but what would have been the priority would be what they are bringing to the table and not necessarily where they are from.
Well, Akande also raised the issue of the unresolved assassination of a serving minister and the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Bolaigi. This has led the Apex Pan-Yoruba socio-cultural organization to demand for a fresh probe. And of course, I remember, it's in the news here that Ayo Adebanjo had to come out lashing out at Bisi Akande seriously. They even said that Akande will not be taken seriously. These and more are issues that at the end of the day, one would have known that why at this particular time, where it's like a countdown to the 2023 election, they are playing out these cards through an autobiography. Most Nigerians are insisting that it is still politics and that it is all part of the politics of the Southwest. to align and realign, to project the villain and the heroes, and then let Nigerians, especially those two from the Southwest, see who are supposed to be the true leaders. Tell us, do you have any idea of why such issues are being popped up under an autobiography, this particular particular, like the Bola?
Well, I cannot really say what the
Bola accused Obasanjo's government of complicity.
Yeah, that's
The mother of
Akande.
Akande. I mean Akande.
Yes, he said that, and it's not the only one that felt that way. A lot of people, those who spoke up and those who have not spoken up, always thought that the way Bola the girl was killed, and the way the wishy-washy were some of the accused persons were let go. Some of them won the election, while they were still in detention and all that. That there was no diligent investigation of that case to achieve a result, and a result that is, I can say, this is justice. So I not just Bola again. A lot of during the time of Obasanjo, not the president government, himself, I would say that. What can I say? There are a lot of unresolved mothers. So to the point that Nobel laureate said that the nest of killers in PDP. Say nest of
killers.
PDP.
I remember
That time people like Khaled Mashal, Dikibo.
I remember that it was contained in an open letter he wrote to Obasanjo then.
Yes.
Say, Mr. President, watch your back.
So even people like Kalu, governor of Kalu, even screaming at the time that they were coming after him and all that. So, there are a lot of unresolved murders during that regime, and most of them, they trace it left to nowhere. So he's saying from the I'm not the full book, but the part
from his narrative.
He said that because he only come to his conclusion, not because he has concrete evidence, but that the way the government was not too keen to find the killers showed to him that the government was complicit of this murder. And then he started to benefit.
And then that Ige was killed out of mere jealousy. It was because he was becoming so popular in the Southwest.
And at that time, it was felt that PDP planned to take over the Southwest. And also said, if Ike, we are still on ground due to the granddaughter support that he has in the region. Even going to make him a minister, power first. He still retained his AD identity. He didn't renounce the mention of AD, but I started to serve in the government. To the point that former Minister of Education, is it Professor, what's his name again? I don't know. I said they asked to come and chop, and you're now talking. And I said I didn't come to chop, I came to work. So all those things, that thing called circumstantial evidence. They're not hardcore evidence, but they are pointing to the place, and that's why Kande has now put his Bible up and put in history that he feels that the government was complicit. Look, any murder that's unresolved should be opened, not just
and that is what
all those ones. We open them, and let's see whether we can get a closure, because the families. I mentioned upstage. I mentioned the way certain former Lagos contestants in Lagos State. Do you remember his name now? Engineer Funsho Williams was murdered in his house. And he was a very vibrant former of AD, but he now moved out to when he lost the ticket of governorship to Lagos AD. He now went over to PDP and was mobilizing to contest against Tinubu at the time. And he was just murdered, and his nobody has found out what killed him. So people like that, there are many of them. They should open the case and find out whether they can. Because the families they say hurting. See, nobody has been held accountable for why their patrons were murdered in cold blood. Nobody, it's a traumatic experience for the family. And if somehow we come to a conclusion that he was killed by so and so person, and then justice has mentioned that, and the culprits punished. The family are going to hear from them, but as those things are open wounds, say the time in the I tell the friends are not talking, but talk to me one-on-one so that I say continue from the killing of their loved ones.
Well, for want of time, let's just quickly look at some of the salient points we were supposed to discuss on that book. Yes, but let's look at the integrity of the man himself, Akande. Akande was jailed for over 40 years by a military head of state, then military head of state, General Muhammad Buhari. And today, the same man who jailed Akande is now describing him as a man of integrity. So now, is Buhari saying that Akande was jailed in error because the man was never released until Buhari government was toppled? What do you make of this? You see the error of politics.
Things change.
It shows you the dynamics of politics.
And politics, permanent interest.
Yes,
Exactly.
permanent friend.
Exactly, and the realignment of interest.
Sorry for cutting.
No, go ahead.
You could see how the president welcomed a certain Fanny FFK, Fanny Kaide, in at the president villa, despite all the vituperations that man has put on his government. Some of them are unprintable, but interests are aligned now, and the guy has come to pay, to be accepted. So when it comes to politics, especially in Nigeria, don't just take them too seriously. Attack.
Well, that is the much we can take for the big issue of the day. And of course, we will thank you, our viewers, for keeping tab with us out there. And of course, our in-house analysts, Silas and Chibuzo, for actually addressing the big issue the way it should. Thank you for giving us your time. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of the big issue. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.